So this is in the New York Magazine. Keep in mind that this is a very liberal outfit publication, but take it with a grain of salt because it leads into something else I want to talk about. There was a time not very long ago when Ben Shapiro could reasonably call himself the king of all conservative media. That's all over now, writes political columnist Ross Barkan. Shapiro's company, The Daily Wire, is instituting significant layoffs. Its YouTube channel's subscriber base is starting to shrink, and its website has emerged as one of the great traffic losers in conservative media. There are Daily Wire YouTube videos now, after a few days online, have less than 10,000 views, a catastrophically small number for a channel with more than 3 million subscribers. The top comments all mock the low view counts. If a variety of poor business decisions can be blamed in part for the Daily Wire's fall from grace, ill-fated investments in feature films and epic fantasy series, I didn't know about that, and peculiar merchandise, the greater story is the collapse of Shapiro's constituency, writes Barkan. There are two realities to Shapiro conservatism in 2026. It retains a significant foothold among Republican elites, and it is fast being rejected by the future grassroots of the party. And then we have a picture of Mr. Shapiro there. So I have mentioned this in previous streams, but I do have a little bit of a theory as to why Ben Shapiro is not as popular as he used to be. The first is that owning the libs is no longer something people want to watch. Back in, I don't know when it was, 2015, when he was like shutting down liberals on campus, it was kind of funny to watch because it was, I think part of it is, especially if you were like a conservative on campus, you felt like he was finally saying to everyone on campus exactly what you always wanted to say, or to your professors or whatnot. But now, because we've been fed a steady stream of that and a steady diet of that, it's like we're getting kind of tired of it. It's like, okay, that's great. You shot back at a liberal who was arguing with you and you came up with a witty, clever response. Okay. The other part of it is that we're now finding out, similar to how we found out when Trump ran for president, that the Republican base, the actual Republican voters, had a lot different and more diverse views than we originally imagined. And we thought just by process of elimination that because they tended to vote Republican and supported the Republican Party, that those were their views and their views mirrored the views of the elite, which isn't true at all. In fact, in many cases, it's the opposite. The Republican voter is much more economically, maybe liberal, you could call it. They're much more against globalization than we originally thought. And Republicans have always, the Republican Party has always been pro-globalization, pro-free trade, pro-open markets, pro-open borders, and all those things are anathema to somebody who wants to protect industry, protect the country, protect the culture, all those things, which the Republican base, that's who the Republican base is, and that's what those are the things they want. So when Trump rose to power, we quickly found out that actually there really isn't as big of a market for like Ted Cruz conservatism as we originally thought. And there even isn't as big of a market for the libertarianism as we thought. I mean, those are the people who showed up at the Tea Party rallies and all that, but that is not really the majority of the country. Likewise, when we're looking at Shapiro, we're finding that the market for the views that Shapiro holds actually isn't that big. And there are other right-wing influencers who are filling that void with a more radical brand, a more populist, nativist brand. And that is successful now because the Shapiro ideology and strategy It isn't edgy anymore. It's like, okay, we've heard that before. We've heard that opinion a million times. Nothing new. So there's all of that. But the main thing and the main reason I believe Shapiro has run into a wall here on his success is very simple. And I have said this before about elections, election results, popularity of certain people versus others. We like to think there's an intellectual reason why. We like to come up with reasons that aren't the real reasons. Okay, so I'm trying to think of an example. Like so and so won the election. Well, it's because of gas prices. It's because of inflation. It's because of the number of this that's going up or number of this that's going down. It's because they had a great strategy in this state, in this region, and whatever. Usually, it's much simpler than that because people are much simpler than that. They're not thinking on the level that a lot of us are. I don't say that to sound snobby. I say it because it's true. Most people aren't immersed in politics the same way that I am, or that they don't focus on it. They don't have time for it. So it is my view that the reason Shapiro does not have the support that he used to is because of his personality. I think he's very annoying. That's my personal view, and you can agree or disagree. I tend to agree with a lot of his viewpoints. Some of them I disagree with, but I would say a good 80% of them I agree with. I mean, we disagree maybe a little bit on some foreign policy issues here and there in different aspects, but I think the main reason to me is that he's annoying. He's annoying to watch. He always seems angry. He always seems ticked off. He always seems like he's whining and complaining. And I just don't think he has an I'm going to say it. I think he has an annoying voice. Now, I don't know what you think about my voice. Maybe I'm annoying sometimes. One thing I try not to do with this stream is to be constantly whining, complaining, negative. I want the stream to be joyful. I want to talk about the issues. I want to talk about things happening in the world and politics and law and maybe a little bit of entertainment here and there and whatever else. But I never want it to come off as angry, like I'm seeking some sort of retribution or venting. Maybe I'll vent a little bit here and there, but I like to take the venting and maybe give it a bigger meaning or a greater meaning. But my experience with watching Ben Shapiro is that it's all negative. It's all ornery and perturbed, and I mean, he's sort of like a younger version of Mark Levin. Mark Levin is the same way. It's always anger and screaming, and there's only so much the average person can take of that. When people are watching political content, and by the way, Ben Shapiro has been successful beyond anything I will likely ever experience, no matter how long I do this for. It is undeniable that he has been extremely successful, and I give him full credit for that. But in the end, people are not watching Ben Shapiro and all these other influencers and commentators and podcasters and all that to learn. And they say they're doing it to learn something, and there's an aspect of that. But what they're really doing, and what the audience really craves, is to be entertained. So the successful ones, in my view, are the ones who are both talking seriously about the issues and also entertaining you, also making you laugh. There's great power in humor. People want to, at the end of the day, after they've worked all day and had to put up with a bunch of stuff, they don't want to come home and watch on their phone or on their laptop or on their Apple TV or something. They don't want to watch more negativity, more anger, more another guy pissed off at something. They do want to watch something um, high, maybe a little bit more highbrow. They want to watch something where the issues are being talked about and issues are being discussed and there's debate and opinions, and they do want to learn something, yes, but they want to be entertained and they want to laugh a little bit. And they want someone to help them to relax a little bit while at the same time talking about the issues and being relatable. And I think one of the problems that Ben Shapiro has is simply just his personality doesn't fit with that need. It doesn't really fit that demand. His personality, it works when he's at a college campus and he's debating somebody. It may work when he's on with like Pierce Morgan on CNN and he's trying to clap back at him. But I don't really think it works when it comes to a larger audience. I don't really think it works when it comes to bringing in, especially a younger audience, because they don't want to listen to constant screeching. And of course, there's policy reasons too, and certain opinions he has that young people aren't buying into. But I think number one is the zeal is gone. But number two, and more importantly, is that his personality and his approach, at least to me, and I do think there are probably a lot of people like me. I just find the personality very off-putting, and that's just me. But the thing is, I don't think it's just me. I think the numbers bear that out. I think, if you, and again, it's very rare that he ever smiles. Like try watching a Ben Shapiro interview or clip with the volume down. He hardly ever smiles or laughs. It's very rare that he laughs. When he laughs, it's kind of like, whoa, that was like a weird thing. And it's not because he's like a stoic or something. It's because he always looks like he's always like this. He's always like he really wants to prove you wrong, and you're like this. His whole show is like proving you wrong, and you don't get this, and he doesn't understand this part of the policy, that's how the whole show is. And I just don't think people want to listen to that over and over and over when there's so many other options out there. And I know I'm like a rookie at this, and I have not built an audience yet of any meaning, but I am attempting to do so. And one of the things that I have noticed is that the successful ones do have something in common, and it's that they are both talking about serious issues while at the same time not taking themselves overly seriously. Because in the end, what they are doing is they are not, when you talk about Joe Rogan or Shapiro or Steven Crowder or any of these other people, in the end, they're not really in the politics business. And I was talking earlier about Rush Limbaugh and how I used to listen to Rush. One of the reasons why Rush and what separated him from like Hannity or Levin or any of these old conservative types is that, and Rush used to talk about this. First of all, Rush was funny. But second, Rush used to always say, I am not a political commentator. I am not an intellectual. I am not, I don't know, like, I'm not a political person. I'm a broadcaster first and foremost. He said, my number one duty is to be able to make this show so popular that I can charge confiscatory advertising rates. He used to say that all the time, and it was tongue in cheek. But even him explaining that is a perfect example. He was always humorous. He always found the humor and the entertainment value in something. He was not coming at everything from a political angle, although he certainly had an ideological view. He was certainly a rock-ribbed conservative, and he was of that mold. He was of that Mike Pence mold that I'm talking about. That might not be the best thing for the party, but Rush did not see his show as a political vehicle. It was a political vehicle. It was a very influential and very important and very powerful political vehicle, but he did not see his job and he did not see his show as that means to an end. He was not running for office. He was not trying to start a movement. He would say over and over again, I am a broadcaster. I am a radio person. And what he was really saying there, in other words, is I am in the entertainment business. I'm not in the politics business. And I think a lot of commentators, and a lot of podcasters, a lot of social media types are mixing it up. They think that they are in politics when really they're in entertainment, and their first job is to entertain you, to make you laugh, to make you want to come back, to make you enjoy your time watching the show. And that is important. That is what keeps people coming back. I know that the commentators and the podcasters that I like, it's humorous, it's jovial, it's positive, it's all of those things. And whenever I see Ben Shapiro, I really don't see that. And I think particularly young people, and that's why they're sort of more attracted to like the Theo Von version of things now, is because most of them are not political animals. They're not political people. They're not really looking for a fully political show. They have like more right-wing inclinations for sure, but they're not looking for a political commentary. They're looking for a social commentary with some humor that they can relate to. And that's why, as I keep going back to like Theo Von or someone like that who isn't anywhere near the same universe intellectually as Ben Shapiro is, but he knows how to entertain better than Ben Shapiro does. And that's why, in my opinion, he's having more success at it than Ben Shapiro is. So I haven't read the full story here and what the angle is. I'm sure the New York, what is it? The New York Magazine. I'm sure it's a lot of crazy crap. But when I saw the headline, and I've heard a lot about this, that Daily Wire is suffering and having problems, and you never wish problems on any company. But to me, it's really no surprise, because I think the era of owning the libs is over. I think it went on for a few years. It was kind of fun while it lasted, but I think that whole thing has sort of run its course. And now when you see people posting stuff like that on social media or saying stuff like that on podcasts or whatever, it's kind of like it's a little cringy now. It's like, this is not having the same effect it used to. It's like shows. Like, I remember what I used to watch. This was very light viewing when I was in college. Duck Dynasty was kind of funny. The old uncle was crazy. Cy, he was funny and had told crazy stories, and the family was very, redneck, and the whole thing was just kind of interesting to watch. And the characters, and as I say, especially the old uncle, was hilarious, unintentionally hilarious. But once they found out that the show was popular because of that, they began to make him intentionally hilarious. And once he did that, it was over. It lost the effect. And that's not the only place that's happened. When people try and make something, something that is not, and try too hard, that's what happens. So I think that's what's happened to the right. Anyway, I'm coming up on the hour, which is when I always vow to end. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please click the like button, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think in the bottom right, you can click the button and subscribe. If you're watching on X, please follow me on X, Florida Millennial. Find me on YouTube, Florida Millennial. And thank you for joining. Interesting show, I guess, I hope. Kind of a lot of random little topics. There wasn't one big topic tonight, but that's sometimes how it is. I'll be back, hopefully, probably not tomorrow night, so probably early next week or maybe a late stream on Saturday. We'll see. But thank you for joining, everybody, and I will see you later. God bless.